The morning of the will reading slammed into me like a sucker punch, colder than a Boston winter had any business being in late May. Sunlight streamed through the towering mahogany-paneled windows of Grant and Associates' downtown office, bouncing off the polished hardwood, but it couldn't touch the dread twisting my gut into knots. My brother Nathan swaggered in like he was walking onto a red carpet, custom navy suit pressed razor-sharp, Rolex flashing like a beacon, that smirk of his screaming he'd already won the jackpot. And why wouldn't he? Our parents had always seen him as the golden boy, the Harvard MBA destined to inherit Carter Industries, their tech and real estate empire that cast a shadow from coast to coast. Me? Elena Carter, the art history dropout with paint under my nails and a resume full of dead-end gigs. I was the family screw-up, the one they'd rather forget existed. Elena Carter? Mr. Grant's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, crisp and clipped, like a judge about to drop the hammer. He stood behind his massive oak desk, a stack of papers in hand, peering over wire-rimmed glasses with a look that said he'd rather be anywhere else. You ready for this? I nodded, my fingers digging into the leather chair arms until they creaked like old floorboards under strain. Mr. Grant adjusted his tie with a lawyer's precision and started reading. To our son, Nathan Carter, for his unwavering dedication to Carter Industries, the Vermont estate with its private lake and 10 acres of rolling hills, the Hamptons Beach House on Dune Road with panoramic ocean views, majority shares in the company, 60%, and a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio, including blue-chip stocks, Silicon Valley startups, and offshore accounts, to be managed at his discretion. Nathan's grin stretched wider with every word, his teeth gleaming like he was posing for a Forbes cover shoot. I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palms, fighting the urge to scream or flip the damn desk. And to our daughter, Elena. Mr. Grant paused, flipping the page with a slow, deliberate rustle that made my pulse jackhammer in my ears. We leave the painting Autumn Twilight, currently hanging in the study of our main residence on Beacon Hill. The room went dead silent, the kind of quiet that presses on your chest like a weight. Then Nathan let out a laugh, sharp, cruel, like a hyena spotting fresh meat. That weird-ass tree thing? Seriously? That's her big score? A painting. My voice cracked, barely above a whisper, as if saying it louder would make the humiliation stick like wet paint. Mr. Grant shifted uncomfortably, his polished loafers squeaking against the floor. It was your mother's favorite, Elena. She was adamant about it going to you. Fury erupted inside me, a wildfire tearing through my veins, hot and unstoppable. 3 generations of wealth, sprawling estates, a corporate juggernaut raking in billions, and I got stuck with a canvas? I shoved out of the chair, its legs screeching across the hardwood like a banshee on a bender. Nathan clapped a heavy hand on my shoulder as I stormed past, his grip dripping with mockery, his cologne sharp and overpriced. Don't sweat it, sis, he sneered, leaning in close, his breath hot with espresso and arrogance. I'll toss you a mailroom gig at HQ. You can lick envelopes while I run the empire. Keep the family close, right? I knocked his hand off with a sharp twist of my shoulder and bolted down the hallway, my boots pounding the marble like a war drum. The cold air outside slapped me hard, cutting through my jacket, but as I stood on the sidewalk, my breath fogging in the crisp morning, a splinter of doubt wedged itself deep. Nathan's smugness wasn't just victory. There was a twitch in his jaw, a glint in his eye that didn't add up. Something was off, and it chewed at me like a dog with a bone, refusing to let go. The drive to the Carter estate, Nathan's estate now, was a 40-minute blur of I-95 traffic jams and bare trees whipping past my beat-up Honda's windows. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, the will reading replaying in my head like a bad movie stuck on repeat. A painting. That's all they thought I amounted to, a sentimental trinket for the screw-up daughter. The wrought iron gates creaked open after I barked my name into the intercom, the security guards eyeballing me like I was some punk kid crashing their VIP list. The Beacon Hill mansion loomed ahead, red brick facade, ivy choking the walls, a postcard of old Boston money that screamed privilege. The marble foyer sparkled under the chandelier's glow, cold and pristine, a time capsule of a life I'd never fit into. Clara, our housekeeper since I was a kid sneaking cookies from her kitchen, waited there, gray hair pulled into a tight bun, her face creased with years of quiet loyalty. She pulled me into a hug, her lavender scent wrapping around me like a lifeline, grounding me for a fleeting second. "Oh, Miss Elena," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears, trembling against my ear. "I'm so sorry, honey. It's not right, leaving you with scraps like this after everything." I swallowed the lump in my throat, blinking back the sting in my eyes. "I'm just here for the painting, Clara. Let's get it and go." She nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line of resolve, and led me up the grand staircase, her steps slow but steady on the creaky oak. The study smelled of leather and my father's cigars, shelves packed with books nobody ever cracked open, a room frozen in time. Above the fireplace hung Autumn Twilight, a dusk-lit forest scene, shadows stretching long between the trees, with strange geometric shapes tucked into the branches like secrets woven into the paint. We lifted the heavy frame down together, the wood cool against my palms, and Clara started wrapping it in a faded cashmere blanket, her hands trembling just a touch as she folded the edges. "She'd stare at this thing for hours," Clara said, her voice soft as a memory, eyes distant. "Especially those last months when the cancer was eating her alive. Whispering about numbers, patterns, crazy stuff, we thought. Figured it was the chemo or the pain messing with her head." "Numbers?" I asked, my hand freezing on the frame as I turned to her, my curiosity piqued. "Yeah," Clara said, nodding toward the canvas with a faint frown. She traced those weird shapes, triangles, lines, all that jazz, with her fingers, muttering to herself like she was cracking some code. "Your dad hated it. Used to storm out, yelling she was losing her damn marbles and dragging the family down with her." I leaned in close, my breath catching in my throat. The shapes, triangles, hexagons, jagged slashes, blended into the trees, their colors just a tick off from the earthy browns and greens. I'd spent years as an art restoration specialist, scraping away at old masters in dusty studios, and I knew precision like that wasn't some happy accident. My heart kicked up a notch, thudding against my ribs like a drumbeat. This wasn't just Mom's quirky taste in decor. It was deliberate, a message, maybe, stitched into the brushstrokes, waiting for someone to notice. That night, back in my cramped South End apartment, I hung the painting above my thrift store couch, the nails scraping the plaster as I wrestled it into place. I killed the overhead lights, flipped on a desk lamp that buzzed faintly, and poured a glass of cheap Merlot from a bottle I'd snagged at the corner liquor store. I plopped onto the couch, sinking into the lumpy cushions, and stared up at the canvas, letting the golden glow wash over it. The forest was eerie and gorgeous, every branch painted with a care that bordered on obsessive, the shadows stretching like fingers across the scene. But those shapes, they stuck out like a sore thumb in nature's playbook. They were screaming something at me, and the longer I stared, the more my skin prickled with unease, like I was on the edge of something big. I grabbed my laptop off the coffee table, the keys sticky from last week's coffee spill, and Googled Autumn Twilight by Vivian Carter. Nothing but a few unrelated hits, some blog posts, and a random Etsy listing. Tried Autumn Twilight painting artist signature. Zilch. No auctions, no galleries, no record of it anywhere in the art world. The label on the frame's back listed a defunct gallery in Cambridge, shuttered back when I was still in high school dodging gym class. It was like the painting had dropped out of thin air, a ghost in the art world. My phone buzzed on the cushion beside me, Nathan's 12th call since noon, his name flashing like a taunt on the cracked screen. I let it ring out, the voicemail chime, pinging a second later. Then a text popped up, short and smug. "Don't be a sore loser, sis. Come work for me. It's what Mom and Dad would have wanted. Keep the family tight, you know?" I snorted, a dry, bitter sound that bounced off the peeling walls. They'd wanted me to be Nathan 2.0, ruthless, suit-clad, chasing quarterly profits like a greyhound after a rabbit. Instead, I'd picked art restoration, digging for truth in cracked canvases and faded murals, Work that paid peanuts but kept me sane, kept me me. Maybe this painting was their last dig, a sentimental screw you from beyond the grave. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a puzzle they didn't think I'd have the guts or the smarts to crack. I snatched a flashlight from my toolbox under the sink, the metal cold in my hand, and ran it over the canvas, the beam slicing through the dim room like a spotlight. The colors shifted under the light, and the shapes shimmered. Numbers flickered into view, faint but unmistakable, etched into the paint like a hidden tattoo. Coordinates. Latitude. Longitude. A location somewhere out there in the world. My breath hitched, the wine glass trembling in my grip, nearly sloshing onto my lap. This wasn't just art, it was a damn message. But before I could wrap my head around it, a hard knock rattled my door. 1 a.m., the city outside dead as a graveyard. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs, and crept to the peephole, peering out with one eye. Nathan stood there, tie hanging loose like a noose, hair a sweaty mess, eyes wild with something I couldn't pin down. Fear, maybe, or desperation. "Elena, open the damn door," he barked, pounding once more before leaning in close, voice low and urgent. "The painting, Mom left instructions you don't get. 5 million, cash, wired tonight, or you're in deep shit. Give it to me now." I stumbled back, his words hitting like a freight train. 5 million? For a painting he'd laughed off over his morning latte? He rattled the knob, then keys jingled. He still had my spare from years back. I grabbed the painting, bolted to my bedroom, and locked the door as the front door creaked open, his boots stomping inside. "Elena," he roared, voice echoing down the hall. "Where's the painting? Don't make me break this down." I pressed my back against the door, hands shaking as I gripped the frame, my fingers brushing a seam, too perfect to be a flaw. I pried it open with my nails, and a folded paper slipped out, fluttering to the floor. My mother's handwriting stared up at me, sharp and elegant, like she'd written it yesterday. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, you've found what I knew you would. You see patterns nobody else does. You question what they take as gospel. The numbers in the painting, with the codes below, lead to the truth about Carter Industries. Your father and Nathan built it on stolen ideas, mine included. They buried me alive, but you, my brilliant girl, were always meant to dig me up and set it right." Tears burned my eyes, spilling over as I read her words, a confession, a roadmap, a plea from the grave. The doorknob rattled hard, Nathan's shouts turning feral, but I wasn't scared anymore. Not of him, not of anything. This painting wasn't my punishment. It was my inheritance. And it was about to blow their whole damn world apart. Nathan backed off when I yelled I was dialing 911, his footsteps pounding away as my front door slammed shut with a bang that shook the walls. I sank to the floor, still clutching the painting, and dug into the frame again, my fingers trembling like I downed a triple espresso. A flash drive slid out from a hidden groove, small, black, unmarked, like something out of a spy flick. I plugged it into my laptop, my pulse racing as the screen lit up with a folder labeled for Elena. Files flooded the desktop, blueprints, lab reports, prototype specs, all dated years before Carter Industries' patents hit the books, all signed Vivian Carter in her tight, precise script. Then a video file blinked at me from the list. I clicked it and my mother's face filled the screen. Gaunt from chemo, her cheekbones sharp, but her dark eyes burned with a fire I hadn't seen since I was a kid begging her to look at my sketches. "Elena," she said, her voice steady despite the rasp, "if you're watching this, they've already tried to shut you down, just like they did me. Carter Industries isn't innovation. It's a house of cards built on theft. Your father and Nathan didn't just steal from me. They ripped off dozens of inventors who trusted them. The first time I realized he wasn't just ambitious but dangerous was when he burned my first notebook. Years of work, gone because I wouldn't bend to his rules. You're my justice, baby girl. Don't let them bury you too." My chest tightened, tears streaming down my face as her words sank in, that mini flashback cutting deep. Dad torching her notebook, her dreams, her fight, all because she wouldn't play his game. It explained everything. Her silence, her distance, The way they'd sidelined me, called me a flake, too emotional for their boardroom bullshit. It was never about me screwing up, it was about keeping me out, keeping me blind. And now I had the proof to burn their house of cards to the ground. My phone buzzed on the floor beside me. Clara's text. Men at the house, tearing the study apart. They're looking for something, Miss Elena. Be careful. They were in full-on panic mode, scrambling to cover their tracks. Too damn late. I uploaded every file to the cloud, triple-backed it up on encrypted drives I'd stashed from old freelance gigs, then mapped the coordinates from the painting, some nowhere spot in the Berkshires, 2 hours west of Boston. Mom's secret lab. I'd bet my life on it. I grabbed the painting, the letter, the flash drive, and my car keys, slipping out into the night like a shadow, the city lights fading behind me. The drive was a dark, twisting slog, 2 hours of backroads, my GPS crapping out halfway when the signal dropped in the middle of nowhere. Mom's hand-drawn map, tucked in the letter, kept me on track, her shaky lines guiding me through the maze of unmarked turns. I checked my mirrors every few minutes, no taillights, but my nerves stayed on a razor's edge, my hands sweaty on the wheel. Then a tire blew out with a bang that echoed through the woods, the car lurching hard to the right. I swerved to the shoulder, heart slamming in my chest, and stumbled out with my flashlight, the beam shaking in my grip. The rear tire was shredded, a spiked metal strip glinting in the light. Fresh, deliberate. No way it was random road junk. Somebody was out here, watching, waiting. I scanned the trees, shadows shifting just beyond the beam, but saw nothing but darkness and the rustle of leaves. My hands shook as I swapped the spare for my trunk, the cold biting my fingers, my breath fogging in the frigid air. I floored it the rest of the way, eyes darting to every flicker in the woods, the painting rattling in the passenger seat beside me. Dawn was breaking, a gray smear creeping over the hills, when I hit the coordinates, an abandoned farmhouse sagging in an overgrown field, its boards peeling like old skin under the weight of time. I parked behind a rotting barn, clutching the painting like a lifeline, and followed the shape's pattern through the thick brush, my boots crunching on frost-crusted leaves as the forest swallowed me whole. A storm cellar emerged, rusted but solid, half buried under a tangle of vines and dirt. I cleared a keypad hidden under a loose stone and punched in the first code from the painting. A soft click sounded, and the heavy doors hissed open on hydraulics smoother than they had any right to be after years of neglect. Cold, stale air rushed up from the depths as I descended the concrete steps, my breath fogging in the dimness, my flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. Motion-activated lights snapped on with a low buzz, illuminating a sleek white corridor, sterile, high-tech, like something out of a sci-fi blockbuster, not some backwoods hideout. Sealed doors lined the walls, the faint hum of machinery vibrating under my feet like a heartbeat. I reached the main security door, a slab of steel with another keypad, and entered the second code from the painting. It slid open with a whisper, revealing a lab that looked like it belonged in Silicon Valley, glass walls, humming servers, rows of equipment blinking with quiet purpose. A wall of blueprints and patents caught my eye, all signed Vivian Carter in that same tight script I'd seen on the flash drive. These weren't just contributions. They were the backbone of Carter Industries, the originals, the real deal she'd poured her soul into. "Oh my God," I whispered, stepping forward, my voice bouncing off the glass walls. She built it all, and they erased her like she was nothing. A slow clap broke the silence, sharp and mocking, echoing through the lab. I spun around, my blood turning to ice in my veins. My father stepped out of the shadows, alive, his gray eyes glinting with a cold, unyielding certainty I'd known since I was a kid begging for a scrap of his approval, only to get silence instead. "Well done, Elena," he said, his voice smooth as polished steel, hands clasped behind his back like he was about to give a boardroom lecture. "I knew you'd sniff it out eventually. You've got her damn stubbornness. Too much for your own good, just like she did." "You're supposed to be dead," I rasped, my throat dry as sandpaper, backing up a step as my mind raced to catch up. He tilted his head, a faint smirk curling his lips, the same smirk he'd worn when he dismissed my childhood sketches as cute but useless. Control the story, control the world, Elena. Sometimes the best move is to vanish. Let them mourn you, let them drop their guard, until it's time to take it all back and rewrite the ending. You used me, I said, my voice shaking with a rage I could barely contain. You let me think I was alone, let Mom die believing she'd failed us, failed me. She failed the second she got soft, he snapped, his composure cracking for a split second, a flash of anger breaking through the mask. Chose sentiment over strategy, and it cost her everything. Now you're gonna help us fix her mess. Hand over the data, Elena, and we'll scrub every trace of her little delusions before it's too late. No, I said, lunging for the main console, my fingers flying across the touchscreen before he could move an inch. Clarity Protocol activated flashed on the screen, and the files started broadcasting, encrypted, unstoppable, to servers across the globe, a digital tidal wave I couldn't reel back even if I wanted to. What the hell did you do? Nathan roared, bursting in from a side door, his face twisted with panic and fury, his suit jacket flapping like he'd sprinted the whole way from Boston. I slammed the emergency lockdown button with my fist. Steel barriers crashed down over every exit with a deafening clang, alarms screaming through the lab like a banshee on steroids. You wanted her brilliance? I shouted, my voice raw and breaking, tears stinging my eyes. You built your empire on stolen dreams, hers, and God knows how many others. Now the world's gonna see the truth, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Shut it down, my father bellowed, storming toward me, his polished shoes pounding the floor, his face a mask of rage and desperation. You can't, I said, stepping back, my voice steady now, cutting through the chaos. She designed it that way, one trigger, and it's out there forever. You're done, both of you. Sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights flashing through the lab's tiny windows, cutting through the dawn mist like knives through butter. My father's face went pale, his jaw tight. Fear, real fear, flickering in those cold eyes for the first time in my life, a sight I never thought I'd live to see. The cops swarmed the lab like ants on a picnic, cuffing Nathan and my father as they shouted threats and curses that echoed off the glass walls, their voices swallowed by the chaos. I stood there, panting, my hands still trembling from the adrenaline, watching them get dragged out. Nathan thrashing like a trapped animal, his tie flapping, my father silent but seething, his gaze locked on me with a promise of retribution he'd never get to deliver. Hours later, I crashed in a roadside motel off Route 7, exhausted but wired, flipping through news channels on a staticky TV as headlines exploded across the screen like fireworks on the 4th of July. Carter Industries collapses in patent theft scandal. Whistleblower daughter strikes gold. Vivian Carter, the genius they stole from, revealed at last. Corporate empire built on lies. Full expose rocks the nation. My phone buzzed nonstop on the chipped nightstand. Reporters, lawyers, random strangers with opinions. But I only picked up for Clara, her voice crackling through the line like a lifeline. They tried to erase her, Clara, I said softly, staring at the painting propped against the motel wall, its forest shadows staring back at me. But she planned every damn step. She knew I'd find it. She always believed in you, Clara whispered, a sob catching in her throat. Even when they wouldn't give you the time of day, she knew you'd make it right. The next morning, I walked into Carter Industries' sleek Boston HQ, not as the screw-up kid they'd ignored for years, but as the one calling the shots. The board, sweating bullets to salvage what was left of their sinking ship, had no choice but to hand me the reins, legal heir to Mom's trust, her patents, her tech, everything they'd tried to steal. I strode into my father's old office, the corner suite with its panoramic view of the Charles River shimmering under the morning sun, and ripped his framed portrait off the wall, letting it crash to the floor with a satisfying thud that echoed through the room. In its place, I hung Autumn Twilight, the painting that had unraveled their lies, its forest shadows and geometric secrets staring back at me like a quiet victory, a testament to the woman they'd tried to bury. Carter Industries was dead by noon, Names stripped from every document, every sign, every shred of its existence, wiped clean like a stain scrubbed from the floor. In its place rose Aurora Innovations, a company I built from the ashes on truth and grit, not stolen dreams or boardroom bullshit. At our first press conference, I stood in the newly christened Vivian Carter Auditorium, facing a sea of flashing cameras and mic-waving reporters, my hands steady on the podium despite the butterflies in my stomach. My mother, Vivian Carter, was a pioneer whose work was stolen, her voice silenced by the people she trusted most. I said, my voice carrying over the crowd, clear and unshaken. Aurora Innovations and the Vivian Carter Foundation are here to make damn sure no inventor gets buried like that again. This isn't just a company. It's a promise to every dreamer out there who's been screwed over by the suits upstairs. The room erupted, questions flying, applause thundering, chaos breaking loose. But I just looked at autumn twilight hanging behind me, its shapes catching the light, and felt her there, nodding, a ghost in the paint telling me I'd done her proud. 2 years later, Aurora was a global name, not just for cutting-edge tech, but for doing it right, for giving a damn. We launched the Aurora Innovation Fair, a coast-to-coast event spotlighting young talent the old guard would have ignored without a second glance. Our first winner, Maya Chen, a shy 20-year-old from Oakland, blew us away with sustainable battery tech that could have come straight out of Mom's playbook. Same spark, same fire, same refusal to back down. I handed her the award on stage, her hands shaking as she took it, and I saw Mom in her eyes, a legacy reborn. Clara showed up at my office one afternoon, her hands trembling worse than usual as she handed me a letter, Mom's handwriting, scheduled for delivery 2 years after Aurora's launch, like she'd timed it to the second. My darling Elena, it read, if you're holding this, you've done more than I ever dreamed. You didn't just dig up the truth. You built something real from the ashes, something lasting. Not for revenge, but for purpose. Led with your heart, baby girl. It's your best invention, and it's stronger than they'll ever know. I clutched it tight, tears blurring the ink, her words sinking deep into my bones. The real inheritance wasn't the money or the company. It was the fight she'd passed down, the chance to make it right, to give her the voice they'd stolen. I folded the letter and slipped it into my desk drawer, right next to the flashlight that had started it all. But then, the curveball hit, and it hit hard. Late one night, after a marathon day of board meetings and prototype demos, a package landed on my desk. No return address, just a plain metal box with my name scratched into it in jagged, uneven lines. I popped it open with a letter opener, my gut twisting as a key clinked out onto the desk, followed by a folded note in handwriting I didn't recognize, sharp and hurried. Vivian wasn't alone. Find us. 42.3601 degrees north, 71.0589 degrees west. My breath caught, pulse racing like a jackhammer. Boston. Right back where I'd started, coordinates pointing to somewhere in the city I thought I'd already conquered. The key's ridges matched a lock I'd seen in her lab, small, unopened, tucked in a corner during the chaos 2 years back, unnoticed in the rush. Mom hadn't just hidden her own work. She'd been part of something bigger, a network, a secret crew of inventors who'd been screwed over just like her, their voices silenced, their dreams buried under corporate greed. This wasn't the end of the line. It was a door cracking open to a whole new fight, a conspiracy stretching beyond my family's lies. I grabbed my jacket off the chair, the painting's codes flashing in my head like a neon sign, my hands steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. More truths were out there, buried and waiting, and I'd be damned if I didn't dig them up too. Every last one of them, no matter who tried to stop me. Man, if you got a rush out of Elena's wild ride, unmasking her family's dirty secrets, dodging sabotage on those dark back roads, and that jaw-dropping hint of a bigger conspiracy just waiting to explode, I've got a whole stash of stories like this brewing in the tank. Hit that subscribe button to jump on the next adventure with me. I'd love to have you along for the ride as we crack open more mysteries, kick some serious ass, and maybe even rewrite a few endings of our own. Thanks for sticking with me. You're the best crew I could ask for.